villains, despicable characters, more like who came off looking the worst after the fact in the saga. Now, I'll give you someone on my list, number one, and I don't think he deserves it, but this is just personal opinion, and this just shows how when you're on TV that long during that trial, everybody's gonna have a different opinion about you. You know who stood out to me as being really unlikable and kind of despicable? Barry Scheck.
Wow, I'm going to disagree 100% with you. If you can tell your point.
Okay, let me give you my point. And I'm speaking about only during the trial because I think after the fact, he thought OJ did it. I really do. And I think I've seen interviews with him where almost maybe he doesn't regret it because as a lawyer, you have a job to do, defend your client. He did that very, very well.
Right.
And I have great respect for him, what he's done with that project that he has, getting people that were framed or convicted unjustly.
Right.
He'll use DNA to get them out. So he's a good guy. I mean, he is. He's a great lawyer. But I just thought during that trial, he accused LAPD of planting blood twice. Twice he accused them of doing that. And he was very emphatic. And he just came across to me as a villain in that thing that lingered with me. And I have him at the top of my list.
Well, I can see your point, and I can see that people on the two sides of the aisle, prosecution and defense, I can completely agree with you how the people in defense would love this guy, would love him. Prosecution, not so much. The reason I think you're wrong on this thing is because when I saw Barry Scheck go on the stand, I knew immediately this guy was genius. I knew he knew his facts about DNA, and he knew how to talk to the jury about it more than the prosecution did. I don't think he's the villain, but I understand your point, but I think you're wrong.
You're right. I admit that I'm wrong, but I'm also talking about how perceptions can be formed, right? And it's all, everybody was grandstanding during that trial, right? Everybody used those weeks and months that they were on TV.
You said the word use, and I'm going to say my choice, and it's ancillary to the whole trial.
Okay.
Jeffrey Toobin. Jeffrey Toobin had nothing to do with it, got a movie deal, got a huge thing, made multiple millions, never said one nice thing about me, and I didn't even know the guy,
right?
But he destroyed me and everything that he wrote, my opinion. And I think that there's someone that profited, who had nothing to do with it. So many people want to be connected to it, and he was someone that profited off the
blood money.
Yeah, exactly. And then, not only that, we all know what he did on CNN, and I think that sort of speaks.
Do you want to say what he did?
I don't, but it speaks of character.
He enjoyed a moment alone, but he wasn't alone. He was on a Zoom call. Remember?
Yeah,
and he got busted on a Zoom call.
What was he doing?
With his pants down, pleasuring himself.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that
was a big story about 2 years ago.
And so you think about that.
That's karma. That's payback. You don't mess with the K train.
I love that you said that one. You're back on my top 5 best friend list. Back on my top 5 best friend list. But that's someone ancillary, had nothing to do with it. And I say that because so many people want to be connected to it.
Yeah.
Do you have another villain?
The jury. I think the jury, it's come out that they were going to acquit him regardless. And your job is to look at the evidence and be fair. And I think they are the villains in this thing as well because they're shameless about it. They're admitting the fact that race was the number one reason. It was eight women, 2 men, downtown LA. So anyway, let me get back to Toobin. What was he saying about you? Was he making it personal when he was attacking you?
In his book, he just said I was a fool, a stupid person. I don't have the exact wording in front of me. I was on an episode of Dr. Phil one time. He also, spoke very low of me. And then I just did on OJ's death. I said I didn't want to do a CNN interview. I did a CNN interview because everybody told me you have to do. Don't go everything on like a Fox or whatever. So I did it, and they didn't tell me anything. But when I did my interview, the person that guessed after they said, "Well, good night, thanks for joining us," was Jeffrey Toobin, and everybody on Twitter would say, it's easy for you to cut down Kato when he's off the air now. So it was set up. It was sort of I felt like I was set up. Yeah. And it just made me sick.
Yeah, 30 years ago, and you still remember that. Glenn Rogers could be on that list after what we learned the other day. Yeah. Just the fact alone that a serial killer was running around the west side of LA. I don't like him. He's a villain. And yeah, that's what I have.
Where you bring that up with the Glenn Rogers thing, because we had Norman Pardo on, people are still watching it, and we saw the poll was 85%. I just feel no matter what, talking to Glenn Rogers, how can anybody believe the guy in the first place? How could anybody believe this guy's, he just wants attention because he's on death row. He's sort of in solitary confinement. He just wants conversation. But going back to the villains, I think a lot of people think Mark Fuhrman's the villain. I don't. I think the biggest villain, obviously, is OJ. So it's going to be the slam dunk. OJ is the villain. He's the villain because, first of all, I think he's guilty. Secondly, I think up until he met with his defense team, he was going to probably say he did something. and they convinced him that we can get you off, I think. And he became villain because of that with the defense.
Very good. Okay, so we all know that the whole saga launched a lot of careers, made celebrities out of people, and it was the beginning of reality TV, scandal TV, took on a whole new level from that point, and really traditional media changed because of this, right? Entertainment just rose to the forefront, and it just changed the world in the last 30 years. So a number of careers were launched from that saga.
Yeah.
I've got my number one. I'm interested to see if it is the same as yours. A lot of these names you'll know, but here's who I have as number one, Harvey Levin. Because he owned that trial for local news for CBS at the time, but TMZ has changed the world. Yeah. TMZ has become, the go-to news source for so many people, and they scoop everybody. It has become a powerhouse, and he's legit. Yeah. Harvey Levin is a great newsman, a great journalist. He knows how to find information, and he's doggedly determined. But I think for him, he's a media king right now. Yeah. He's created an empire, and it wouldn't have happened without the OJ scandal.
That's a great one. I think I'm going to go a little bit higher because I'm going to say network TV. Court TV started. CNN they've had 4 different spin-off shows from A Burden of Proof with Roger Cossack, Greta Van Susteren, and then MSNBC had a show with Dan Abrams. Everybody started getting shows, and I started realizing that more and more people started getting their SAG card that were lawyers, that weren't actors, but they start getting in movies. And I think there's even a scene in Liar Liar with Jim Carrey. I think I think it's Chris Dart. I don't remember who, but it's someone from the OJ trial. So, but everything. And I guess ancillary, you could say me, but I never lost sight of me becoming a celebrity for the exact wrong reasons. I've always said I'm a celebrity from everything in my life went backward. I had to prove myself. I'd rather prove myself, but I still believe that with Ron and Nicole losing their life, I've never lost sight of that. And that was what it's always been about. My life blueprint was from God above, and whatever was going to happen was going to happen. So I followed what was going to happen. But I did, before this, as you know, I read for so many parts before the trial. I was like I believe I was up and coming. Yeah. And it's easy for me to say that. And people could say, oh, shut up, Kato. But I was reading. I was doing it. I've had my SAG card for over 40 years.
Yeah. So some people, I think it's something that, made you become a celebrity, which because of circumstances you were and your personality, but who knows where your career could have been. Maybe it was the worst thing that happened to you because you could have been a movie star or a producer doing big things, but it's not done.